pack your things, Margaret. Security will escort you out." He said it with a smile, not a nervous smile, not an apologetic one. The kind of smile a man wears when he wants everyone in the room to know exactly who holds the power. Charles Voss stood in the middle of the open office floor, arms crossed, voice echoing off the glass walls, and 43 employees watched a 61-year-old woman's entire career get erased in under 30 seconds. Margaret Chin had worked at Voss Financial for 32 years, 32 years of fires organized before anyone else arrived, 32 years of staying until the cleaners came, 32 years of remembering birthdays, covering shifts, and holding this company together with quiet, steady hands that never once asked for applause. And Charles Voss, who had been with the company for 14 months, just threw all of it away like it was nothing, like she was nothing. What he didn't notice in that moment of performance was the man sitting in the corner chair near the window, the one with the broad shoulders and the calm eyes who hadn't touched his coffee in 5 minutes, the one with the black Labrador resting at his feet, who slowly lifted his head, like even the dog could feel that something had just gone terribly wrong. "Hey everyone, I'm Grace, and today I want to tell you about Margaret Chen, a woman who spent more than 3 decades giving her best to one place, only to be humiliated on a regular Wednesday morning in front of the people she called family. But the story doesn't end with her walking out that door. It ends with something Charles Voss never saw coming. Margaret started at Voss Financial at the age of 29. Back then, it was called Harlow & Associates, a mid-sized wealth management firm run by a man named Robert Harlow. We genuinely believed that a company was only as strong as the people who showed up every single day. He knew Margaret's name within her first week. He knew she took her coffee black. He knew she had a daughter named Lily who played violin, and he asked about her recitals. That was the culture Margaret fell in love with. She wasn't chasing promotions, she wasn't networking at rooftop parties or updating her LinkedIn every 6 months. She was just there, completely, fully, wholeheartedly. She became the person new hires went to when they were confused about the filing system, the person who quietly fixed other people's errors before they became problems, the person the receptionist called when the internet went down and they needed someone calm to just handle it. She turned down 2 job offers in her 40s from competitors who had noticed her work. She didn't leave. This was home. And Robert Harlow retired 9 years ago. He sold the firm to a private equity group that rebranded it Voss Financial and brought in fresh leadership. The first 2 transitions were rough but manageable. People adapted. Margaret adapted. Then Charles Voss arrived 14 months ago and everything shifted. Charles was 38, sharp-suited, and obsessed with optics. He wanted the office to look like a magazine spread. He rearranged the floor plan twice in 6 months. He replaced the warm overhead lighting with cold white panels because he said it looked more modern. He started holding Monday morning performance syncs that felt less like meetings and more like auditions, everyone performing energy and enthusiasm for an audience of one. Slowly, quietly, the older employees started disappearing. First it was Dennis from accounts, then Vera from client relations, then Harold, who had been there even longer than Margaret. Each of them walked out with a small cardboard box and a 2-week severance that didn't come close to covering what they had given. Margaret watched all of it. She felt every departure, like a small fracture. But she stayed. She worked harder. She told herself that 32 years of dedication had to count for something. That a man like Charles Voss, whatever his flaws, could not look at a record like hers and see nothing worth keeping. She was wrong. Before I go any further, if you've ever worked somewhere that made you feel like a number instead of a person, hit that like button right now. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever watched someone get treated the way Margaret was? What did you do? I read every single one of your comments and I want to know. It was a Wednesday. Ordinary in every way. Margaret had arrived at 7:40 a.m., 20 minutes before her shift, the way she always did. She had brewed the office coffee, responded to 3 early client emails, and was in the middle of preparing the quarterly summary report when she realized she had pulled last quarter's data template by mistake. A small error, the kind that takes 4 minutes to correct if you catch it before it goes anywhere. She caught it. She corrected it. She sent a brief note to her supervisor letting her know. That should have been the end of it. But Charles had been watching Margaret for weeks. Waiting. The way certain people wait, not to fix a problem, but to use one. He came out of his glass office at 10:15 a.m., while the floor was full and the meeting rooms were occupied and the visiting client representatives from Meridian Group were seated in the lobby with their badges and their briefcases. He didn't pull her aside. He didn't lower his voice. He walked to the center of the floor, and he said it loud enough to carry through the entire open space. "Margaret, stand up." She looked up from her desk, calm. She had spent 32 years being calm. "I reviewed your report submission. Or rather, I reviewed what passes for a report submission from someone who's been here this long. This kind of careless mistake from someone at your level," he paused. "Letting the word level land tells me everything I need to know about where your head is." She started to explain the template error, the correction, the note she had already sent. He talked over her. "We're moving in a new direction, Margaret. I think you know that, and I think deep down you know you're not part of it." He straightened his cuff. "Clean out your desk today. HR will have your paperwork." Nobody spoke. 43 people sat at their desks, or stood by the printer, or held coffee cups halfway to their mouths, and not one of them made a sound. Margaret's hands were completely still. She pressed them flat against her desk. She looked at him for exactly 3 seconds. Then she began to gather the small things on her desk. Her pen organizer, the framed photo of Lily, a ceramic mug her granddaughter had painted for her 2 Christmases ago. She did not cry. She had decided she would not cry. But her jaw was tight, and her eyes were bright, and the room was so silent you could hear the hum of the ventilation system. It was in that silence that a chair moved. Not dramatically, not with a scrape or a slam. Just the soft sound of someone rising deliberately to their feet. The man by the window had been waiting for a client meeting. Nobody had paid him much attention. He was early, he had coffee, he had his dog, he was minding his business. He was probably mid-40s, quiet build, the kind of man who didn't take up extra space and didn't need to. His name, as everyone would later learn, was Daniel Ruhr, former Navy SEAL. Currently the senior partner of the security and risk consultancy that Voss Financial had been aggressively courting for the 7-figure contract for the past 3 months. He stood up, and his Labrador stood with him. He looked at Charles Voss the way a man looks at something has already assessed and already decided about. "I'm going to stop you right there." His voice was quiet. That was the thing about it. It wasn't loud, but it had the kind of weight that made loud voices feel embarrassing by comparison. Charles turned, surprised. "Mr. Rourke, I apologize for the disruption. This is an internal matter." It was an internal matter when it was in your office. Daniel took 2 steps forward. "You chose to make it public, so now it's public." He looked around the room, not performing, just acknowledging the 43 witnesses, then back to Charles. "This woman has been here for 32 years. You humiliated her over a corrected clerical error in front of your entire staff and your clients." A pause. "What exactly are you hoping that accomplishes?" Charles opened his mouth. That wasn't an invitation. Daniel's tone did change. Still calm, still quiet. "I've been in rooms where real pressure exists. I've watched people make decisions under conditions you couldn't imagine. And I can tell you, the way a person treats someone who has nothing left to lose in that moment, that tells me everything I need to know about their character." He turned to Margaret, who was standing very still with her ceramic mug in both hands. "Mom, you don't have to leave quietly if you don't want to. And you don't have to leave alone." Margaret did leave. She had decided to the moment he spoke. But she left differently than she would have 30 seconds before. She walked out with her head up, her things tucked under one arm, and Daniel Rourke holding the lobby door open for her. His Labrador walked beside her all the way to the elevator, and in the reflection of the steel doors she finally let herself breathe. Outside, on the bench near the fountain at the base of the building, she sat for a long time. She cried then, not the broken kind of crying, the releasing kind. 32 years of early mornings, and invisible effort and quiet love for a place that had slowly, completely stopped deserving it. Daniel Rourke came out 20 minutes later. He sat down 2 feet away and didn't try to fill the silence with anything unnecessary. After a while he said, "My firm is expanding our administrative division. We're looking for someone who's been in the industry long enough to know where people cut corners, and patient enough to fix it before it becomes a problem. If you want, I'll send you the listing." She laughed, a real one, small and surprised. "You didn't even know me 20 minutes ago," she said. "I know what 32 years of competence looks like when someone tries to erase it in public," he said. "That's enough for me." Margaret Chen started at Rook Consulting 11 weeks later. She now manages their client compliance team, a role she describes as the first job she's ever had that felt built for exactly who she is. Charles Boss lost the Meridian Group contract the following week. The senior representative cited a concern about company culture and leadership conduct. Other institutional clients followed within the quarter. The rebranding initiative Charles had staked his first year on was quietly shelved by the end of the month. He remains at Voss Financial, but he is considerably quieter now. 32 years. That's 11,680 days of showing up, of caring, of doing the invisible work that holds everything together. No award, no ceremony, no one in a boardroom ever standing up and saying, "This place works because of people like her." And yet Margaret Chen did become bitter. She did become small. When the moment came that tested every bit of her dignity, she walked out with her ceramic mug and her spine straight and her granddaughter's painted handwork pressed to her chest. That is the kind of strength that no title can give you, no termination can take away. I want to ask you something before you go, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. Have you ever been in a room where something like this happened? Where someone was treated as if their years meant nothing, their effort meant nothing, they meant nothing. And when it happened, what did you do? Did you stay silent? Did you speak up? Would you do something different now? Because I think about Daniel Walker a lot. Not the Navy SEAL part, the human part. The man who was sitting quietly in a corner, minding his business, who simply decided that silence in that moment was not something he was willing to offer. We all have that choice, more often than we realize. Don't forget to subscribe if this story meant something to you. New stories like this one every week. And leave Margaret's name in the comments if you think she deserved better. Because she did.